On March 27th, 2013, the YouTube channel Extra Credits released a video, linked below, where they discussed two broad methods of modulating player interest throughout their playtime, or in other words, controlling the interest curve. The first is referred to as differences in scale, and is simply numerical variables being changed. This could be increasing enemy numbers or health to change difficulty, or increasing player damage to create a feeling of progression. This is much easier but less powerful than the alternative, referred to as differences in kind. As opposed to differences in scale, differences in kind are difficult to pin down, but they can usually be identified when a fundamental shift happens during a game's runtime. This could be as extreme as a cutscene following gameplay, or as subtle as fighting a single powerful enemy compared to a large group of weak foes. As a general rule of thumb, situations which require players to approach a situation differently than they usually do would be a difference in kind. Punishing Grey Raven makes extensive use of both techniques, but today the focus will be in differences in kind. The starkest example would be gameplay contrasted with the visual novel-esque dialogue sequences. You're put in a very different headspace when reading as opposed to when fighting enemies and dodging attacks. But there is a more easily overlooked method of creating variety through differences in kind, and that is the character switching. One of my favorite aspects about PGR is how much variation they have between variable playable characters, even if those characters are essentially the same person. Enter Vera Rosin and Vera Garnet, two different bodies and playstyles for the same character. Both frames share the basic mechanics common to all characters in PGR, but that is where the similarities end. Rosin is a support-type construct, with a paradoxical focus on dealing damage, with healing being more of an afterthought. Rosin's unique core passive ability allows it to gather overclock points over time that can be expended through a unique move, where Rosin does a powerful series of long-range slashes, with each attack draining overclock points. The key is that Rosin generates these overclock points even when off the field of play, thus encouraging the player to frequently swap away from Rosin, but regularly returning to her in order to maximize usage of this character's specific resource. This helps in emphasizing Rosin's role as a supportive frame, as opposed to the primary attacker, a role further highlighted by her signature attack, which summons a zone that heals allies, damages enemies, but also remains in play even if Rosin is not. Overall, the Rosin frame conveys Vera's aggressive and combative personality, but also her normally hidden affinity for aiding others. The Garnet frame, on the other hand, is designed as a tank construct, having the ability to shred enemy defenses for the attacker construct to take advantages of, while dealing a significant amount of damage themselves. Garnet has a unique mechanic that appears on the surface to be identical to Rosin's, but in practice feels very different. Upon activating or pinging 3 adjacent attack orbs of the same color, Garnet has the option to perform a unique follow-up attack. This follow-up attack is unremarkable, save for the fact that by performing this attack, Garnet gains one so-called electric charge, up to a maximum of 3. At any point, Garnet may expend all of her electric charges to perform a devastating slam attack that decreases enemy defenses even further, with each electric charge spent increasing the damage done. So, why do these characters feel so different? As stated before, Rosin frame Vera is designed to be played through quick bursts of damage, with one rarely using her for more than a few seconds at a time. Vera feels offensive and brutal, able to perform a barrage of fast short-range attacks, but not able to sustain them for extended periods. At the same time, she works optimally as part of a team rather than a lone operative, a fact that is mirrored in her story role as captain of Cerberus Squad. Garnet frame Vera, on the other hand, feels more committed, for lack of a better word. When the character performing large sweeping moves, they are damaging but easily interrupted by enemy attacks. Moves that, I remind you, must be completed before even beginning the follow-up attack to gain valuable electric charges. This encourages players using Garnet to keep her on the field for longer, carefully noting their surroundings while looking for opportunities where they have enough time to acquire an electric charge. This playstyle characterizes Vera Garnet as equally powerful to Rosin, but in a different way. Speed being traded for reach, and spontaneity for sustain. This is also reflected in the story, where Vera uses her Garnet frame when performing missions that would be off the books, usually lone assassinations, where the target was another construct. Garnet allowing Vera greater ability to sustain her attacks, being designed from the ground up to be an exclusively offensive frame. Once again, it must be said that Garnet, Rosin, and all the other characters currently in the game have many more similarities than differences, but those very similarities make the differences stand out all the more, getting players to appreciate and take into account what those differences are through confronting them in gameplay. The differences between Garnet and Rosin are but one example as to how punching Grey Raven creates variation in their moment-to-moment action to great effect.